Sophie opened her eyes early in the morning. The sky outside was still dark. She looked at her clock. It was 6 o'clock. Her class did not start until 8, but she could not sleep anymore. She felt excited. She also felt nervous. Today was her first day at university. She sat up in bed and took a deep breath. Today is a big day, she said to herself. I can do this. Sophie got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. She took a short shower and got dressed. She put on her favorite jeans and a clean shirt. Then she went to the kitchen. She made toast and ate slowly. The toast was warm and crispy, but she could not really taste it. Her mind was busy. She thought about her new school, her teachers, and all the students she would meet. What if I get lost? She thought. What if I can't find my classroom? What if I say something silly? These questions made her feel nervous, but she shook her head and said, No, don't think like that, Sophie. Everything will be okay. She looked at her schedule. Her first class was in classroom D41. She checked it again and again. She put the paper in her bag. Then she took her phone, her notebook, and a pen. She was ready to leave. Sophie walked out of her house and took a deep breath of fresh air. The sky was turning light blue. The birds were singing. She felt her heart beating fast, but she also felt strong. This was a new beginning. When she arrived at the university, she stopped and looked around. The building was big. There were so many people. Some students were walking and talking. Others were laughing. Some were running, maybe because they were late. Sophie stood still for a moment. She felt very small. Everything was new. She walked inside the building. It was bright and busy. There were many hallways and many doors. She did not know where to go. She looked at her paper again. Classroom D41, she whispered. Sophie decided to ask for help. She saw a woman sitting at a desk. The woman was typing on a computer. Sophie walked to her slowly. Excuse me, she said with a soft voice. The woman looked up and smiled. Yes? Sophie tried to sound confident. I have my first class today. Can you tell me where classroom D41 is? The woman nodded. She looked at a paper and said, Go straight, then turn left. The classroom is at the end of the hallway. Sophie smiled. Thank you very much. She started walking. Her heart was still beating fast. She looked at each door as she passed. She saw classroom D20, then D25, then D30. She walked slower. She looked again. The next door said D31. Sophie stopped. Wait, she thought. Is this right? She looked at her schedule again. D41, it said. But maybe she heard wrong. Maybe the woman at the desk said D31. She looked around. Other students were walking into the room. She did not want to look lost. She did not want to be late. I think this is it, she said to herself. She opened the door and stepped inside. The classroom was full of students. Some were reading, some were writing. A man stood at the front. He was wearing a black suit and glasses. He looked serious. Sophie quickly found an empty seat in the middle row. She sat down. She took out her notebook and pen. She felt proud. I made it, she thought. But something felt strange. The room was too quiet. No one was talking. The teacher was not smiling. He was writing something on the board. Sophie looked up. The board said, Midterm exam, 30 minutes. Sophie felt cold. Her hands started to shake. Wait, she thought. A test? On the first day? She looked at the paper on her desk. It said, Advanced physics. Midterm exam. Sophie did not study physics. She studied literature. She looked around. No one else looked surprised. Only her. She took a deep breath. She knew something was wrong. But what would she do next? Sophie sat in her seat and looked around. The classroom was silent. The students were not talking. They were serious. Some of them were writing quickly. Others were reading their papers. The man at the front of the room looked very serious. He was wearing a black suit and glasses. He had a pen in his hand, and he was writing something on the board. Sophie looked up. The board said, "Midterm exam, 30 minutes." Her eyes opened wide. Midterm exam? She thought. Is this real? Her heart started to beat faster. She looked down at the paper on the desk. It said, Advanced Physics, Midterm Exam. Her hands felt cold. Her body froze. Wait, she thought again. I don't study physics. I study literature. This is not my class. Sophie looked around the room. Everyone was writing. No one looked confused. No one was talking. No one looked like they were in the wrong place. Only Sophie felt out of place. The professor turned around. He looked at all the students. He said, "You have 30 minutes. No talking. No phones. Begin." Sophie sat still. She did not move. Her mind was full of thoughts. Should I stay? Should I leave? What if they laugh at me? What if I interrupt the class? She looked again at the paper in front of her. The questions made no sense. There were numbers and formulas she didn't understand. She felt nervous. Her hands were shaking. She needed to say something. She slowly raised her hand. The professor saw her and pointed at her. "Yes," he said. Sophie took a deep breath. Her voice was soft. "Excuse me," she said. I think I'm in the wrong class." The professor raised one eyebrow. He looked surprised. The room became silent. The other students stopped writing. They looked at Sophie. No one said a word. Then, suddenly, the professor smiled. He began to laugh. It was a loud, warm laugh. A few students started to laugh too. Then more students joined. Sophie's face turned red. She felt embarrassed, but she also felt a little better when she saw that people were not angry. They were smiling. The professor said, "It happens. Don't worry." He looked at her kindly and asked, "What class are you looking for?" Sophie looked at her schedule. Her hands were still shaking, but she answered, D41. I'm supposed to be in classroom D4. The professor laughed again, but gently this time. He pointed toward the door. "This is D31, he said. You're one floor too early." Sophie stood up quickly. "I'm so sorry," she said. Some of the students waved at her. One of them said, "Good luck." Sophie smiled, even though she still felt embarrassed. She picked up her bag and walked out of the room. When she stepped into the hallway, she let out a long breath. Her heart was still beating fast, but now she also felt a little lighter. "That was crazy," she whispered, "but at least they were nice." She checked her schedule again. Yes, it was definitely D41. She looked at the classroom numbers on the wall. She had gone too far. She needed to go around the corner and walk a bit more. As she walked, she thought about what had just happened. She had gone into the wrong class. She had sat down, ready to learn. But it was not her class. It was a physics midterm exam. It was scary for a moment, but in the end, it was okay. People laughed, but they were not mean. The professor was kind. He helped her find the right path. Sophie smiled. It was not the best start to her first day, but it was a memory she would never forget. It was a mistake, yes, but also a story. Mistakes like this can feel bad at first. They can make us feel small or shy. But sometimes, these mistakes become important moments. They help us grow. They teach us how to be brave, how to speak up, and how to laugh at ourselves. Sophie made a mistake, but she kept going. And now, she was ready to find the right classroom and begin again. After leaving the wrong classroom, Sophie walked down the hallway more slowly. She looked carefully at each sign on the doors. This time, she didn't want to make another mistake. She turned the corner and saw a door with a clear sign. It said, Classroom D41. Sophie stopped and looked at the sign for a few seconds. She smiled and whispered, Yes, this is the right one. She took a deep breath and opened the door. The classroom was bright and full of light. Some students were talking and laughing. The teacher at the front of the room was smiling and chatting with a student. It felt different from the last room. It felt warm and friendly. Sophie walked in and found an empty seat near the window. She sat down and looked around. Nobody was rushing. Nobody looked nervous. There were no test papers, no quiet rules, no serious faces. Just normal students on their first day, just like her. She let out a long breath and smiled again. What a morning, she thought. As she sat there, she began to feel better. She remembered how scared she felt in the other classroom. She remembered how fast her heart beat when she thought she was in trouble. But now she was safe. She was in the right place. The teacher began the class with a big smile. He said, Welcome, everyone. I hope you're ready for a great semester. The students clapped softly, and Sophie felt proud. She was finally where she needed to be. Later that day, Sophie thought more about what had happened. She remembered the feeling of walking into the wrong class. She remembered the professor's loud laugh. She remembered the students looking at her. She also remembered how kind they were. No one was mean. No one made her feel bad. Some students even smiled and wished her good luck. Sophie realized something important. Making a mistake didn't mean she failed. It didn't mean she was weak. It meant she was trying. It meant she was brave enough to keep going, even when things didn't go as planned. She started to feel thankful for her mistake. If that moment hadn't happened, she wouldn't have this funny story to tell. Now she had something to laugh about. She could share it with her friends. Maybe one day she would share it with her future students or family. She smiled and whispered to herself, It's okay to make mistakes. It's part of learning. When you are learning something new, like English, it's easy to feel afraid. You might say the wrong word. You might forget something. You might feel embarrassed. But every mistake helps you grow. Every mistake is a chance to learn. Sophie's story is not just about a classroom. It's about life. It's about being honest, trying your best, and not giving up. Even when she felt lost, she asked for help. Even when she was scared, she spoke up. And even when she felt embarrassed, she laughed and moved forward. You can do the same. Think about a time you made a mistake while learning English. Maybe you said something funny. Maybe you got confused. Maybe you felt nervous. That's okay. It means you are learning. It means you are doing something new. Try this. Tell your own story. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just speak from the heart. What happened? How did you feel? What did you learn? Sophie learned that mistakes can lead to better moments. She learned that courage grows when we keep going. And most of all, she learned that the first step is not always perfect, but it is powerful. So next time something goes wrong, take a deep breath, smile, and keep going. You are not alone. Every learner makes mistakes. Every learner feels unsure sometimes. But if you keep moving, you will find your path. Just like Sophie. Sophie's story started with excitement, fear, and hope. On her first day at university, she woke up early, full of questions and worries. She wanted everything to go well. Like many of us, she was nervous about being in a new place, meeting new people, and doing something for the first time. But something unexpected happened. Sophie made a mistake. She went into the wrong classroom. She sat down, thinking it was her literature class. But it was a physics exam. At first, she felt scared and embarrassed. She didn't know what to do, but she raised her hand, spoke up, and told the truth. And something beautiful happened. The professor laughed kindly. The students were friendly. They supported her, not judged her. Sophie learned that making mistakes is not the end. It can be the beginning of something even better. Later, when she found the right classroom, she felt calm, happy, and proud. She had made a mistake, but she had also grown stronger. She had a story to tell, a memory to laugh at, and a new confidence inside her. This story teaches us an important lesson. Mistakes are not failures. They are part of the journey. Whether you're learning English or starting a new chapter in life, things will go wrong sometimes. But that's okay. What matters is how you respond. If you stay calm, ask for help, and keep going, you will learn and grow. You will find the right path, just like Sophie did. You can use this lesson in your daily life. If you say a wrong word in English, don't stop. If you feel lost in a conversation, don't give up. Every mistake is a step forward. Every try makes you better. And now, congratulations! You listened to a full English story. That means you practiced listening, understanding, and reading in English. That is a big step. Be proud of yourself. Now let's test your memory with a quick quiz. What classroom did Sophie go to by mistake? A. D31. B. D41. Write your answer in the comments. A or B. I'll be reading your answers. If you enjoyed this story and want more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That helps us a lot and gives us motivation to keep making more stories for you. And if you feel like supporting our work, you can also donate. Making high-quality content takes time, love, and resources, especially in the beginning. Your support keeps this project alive and growing. Thank you for being here. Keep learning, keep smiling, and see you in the next story.